Shalom Aleichem. Welcome to our website, Breslov Research Web Seminar. This week's parsha is Sazria Metzora. Sazria starts off, a woman gives birth, the laws that pertain to afterbirth, and the laws of Mila, of giving a circumcision to a male child. And then it goes into the laws of leprosy, Metzora. That's Sazria. It gives you all the signs and symbols of what it means to be a leper. And then Metzora tells you how to purify yourself, how you can be purified from a Metzora when the tzaras, leprosy, goes away. There's also at the end of Metzora laws that refer to bodily emissions, whether it's nocturnal emissions, whether it's menstruation, and things like that. These are different laws that apply to Klal Yisrael at all different times, and these are the laws of the Parsha. So let's start from the beginning, and let's start with Rashi, at the beginning of Sazria. Rashi says, Omar Reb Samloi said, just like all the laws of a man, man was created after the animals, so too the laws that apply to man begin after the Torah lists the laws of animals. What does this mean? In the creation, we know on the fifth and sixth day God created the animals, then He created Adam. Last week's Parsha Shmini, the Torah speaks of the laws that apply to animals, kosher animals, non-kosher animals, so on and so forth. After we finish the laws of the animals, then the Torah takes to the laws of human being. Human being, what happens when a person is born, and the laws of family purity afterwards, and so on. The connection is really simple. You cannot really be called a human being until you get rid of your animalistic tendencies. We all have those tendencies, whether it's lust, whether it's gluttony, whether it's immorality and avarice, whether it's arrogance, anger. These are all things that come up with birth. We're born with certain tendencies, and they come to us, and this is what the Parsha starts about, a woman who conceives and gives birth. Yes, you conceive according to your mind at the time of conception, right? Your mind was thinking good and pure and nice thoughts, so that's what goes into the conception of the child. If your thoughts are elsewhere, if your thoughts are immoral or lustful or things like that, well then that's the thoughts that help conceive that child. So we have to learn to, suppress might be a strong word, but if not suppress, then control. If we can't suppress our animalistic desires, then at least we should control them. The foreskin is called a blemish, right? Hashem told Avraham in Parshas Lech Lecha, right, Genesis 17, He says there, "Hishalech lefonai v'heyei tomim." Go before me and be perfect. What's that perfect? That shleimus, that perfection, that's having the bris, having the circumcision. So that the foreskin which a person is born with is an impurity. It's a deformity. And it's got to be removed. And that's the idea of our lives. We all have things that we have done wrong. and we want to correct ourselves. We want to do the right thing. And we want to make sure that we don't harm anybody else. We don't deform anybody or anything. We don't want to cause damage, even not just bodily harm, but even property harm and whatnot. Nobody wants to get into a car accident and so on and so forth. So the Torah is telling us the Torah of a person. This is what Rashi explains. The Torah of a person comes after the Torah of an animal. We understand that animals are animals. We understand that animals have their problems. They're not civilized. So too, we have to take ourselves and understand what is civilization, what is not civilization, and to learn that we should be civilized like human beings. To teach us about this, the Torah tells us about Tazria, about the laws of leprosy. If it's white, and if it's in this form or it's this shape, if it's this big or this big or this big, there's all different types of leprosies that it can happen. It can happen on the head, it can happen on the bald spot, it can happen in the facial areas, it can happen anywhere in the body. The interesting thing about leprosy is the Torah tells us, Talmud tells us, that leprosy comes mainly because of slander. Slander. When we spoke bad about a friend, right? One of the examples the Talmud uses about speaking bad about a friend is if somebody asks you, where can I find fire? And you answer, well, go to that person's house. He's very rich, and he has a lot of wood. He's always burning fires and heating the house. He has everything. You say it, well, it's right, it's true. But you say it in a way that shows your jealousy of the person. It shows you're thinking bad of him because he has it, I don't have it, and so on and so forth. Slander, the Torah tells us, is worse than all the other sins. It's worse than idolatry, worse than adultery, and it's worse than murder. 3 capital sins, slander is worse. Because slander, a person could stand here. We're now in Jerusalem. Talmud uses a thing, I can stand in Eretz Israel, and I can kill somebody in Rome. I can do that by speaking bad about him, right? So I'm here, slander. It's my favorite, it's my pet peeve, as they call it. It's when we talk about the media. Look what the media does. They can stand anywhere they want in the world, and you can talk bad about somebody, and you can print it, and you can spread the rumors, if it's true, if it's not true, because even if it's true, slander is forbidden. Certainly, how much more so is it forbidden if it's not true? We have all the media going crazy over Trump accusing Obama of wiretapping or whatever it may be, and the newspapers, and Trump is maligning the newspapers. They never tell anything true, it's all false. And I mean, frankly, I couldn't care less what any one of them say. Thank God I'm not ignorant, and thank God I know what's going on in the world, and thank God I don't believe anything I read in the newspapers. Right? I don't have to worry about the slander and stuff like that, because I don't believe any of it. Because the newspapers are out there to make money. They're not out there for our benefit. The public's right to know, right, goes so far as we can destroy as many lives as you want, as long as we can make $1 out of it. Because if the newspapers would make $1, they wouldn't look at the story. So everything is really for the bottom line and whatnot. That's what slander is. You might say I'm slandering the media. In that case, you would be right. I am. But that's beside the point. The idea behind it is that slander is what caused leprosy. Leprosy is what? It's a disease that a person was isolated. And that's what the media does. They take a person, they box them into a corner, and they slander them, and they destroy their lives. That's leprosy. A person has to have tremendous merit in heaven in order to be able to survive slander. Because slander has killed people. This is what the Gemara says, Gemara in Erechim. So what we have to learn from the Parshas, Sazria, Mitzorah, there is a purification for it. But the Torah is telling us that clothes could become leprous, right? Fashions and whatnot. Or houses could become leopard, right? You can find leprosy in houses and whatnot. And why is the Torah telling us all this? Why? In fact, Rashi in Parshas Mitzorah tells us a very interesting thing. He says, Ki savoyu ela aretz, when you go into the land, v'nosati nega tzora'as v'veis eretz achuzaschem. I will put the leprosy, God says, into your houses. Right? So the Medrash, Torah's Kahanim, the Medrash asks right away. Rashi brings it. He says, imagine that. You took me out of Egypt. You made me 40 years walk through the desert. And now you're telling me I am going to go to the land. I am going to inherit the land. I'm going to take houses and I'm going to build them and I'm going to live there. And you imagine that. You're telling me now, before I get there, that you're going to put leprosy in my house? Right? How can this be? What are you doing to me, God? Right? This is what Rashi's asking. How you tell me you're putting a leprosy? So Rashi explains from the Medrash that the Canaanites who lived there before, they had a lot of wealth. They were afraid the Jews were going to come right away and take everything. So what they figured was that they would hide their wealth in the walls of their homes. So Hashem, when He's telling us that He's going to give us the leprosy, He's telling us that will cause the house to be dismantled, and then you will find the wealth that is hidden in the walls of your home. Well, this is really a tremendous asset to know. Tremendous idea. If you believe it, what happens is we all go through difficult moments. We all go through times when we feel isolated, when we feel alone, when we feel that nobody's looking at us. We have many times where we feel that we're stuck in our homes and I can't go. God forbid somebody is ill. God forbid somebody is just not doing well financially, whatever it may be. There are a lot of things that happen to us, and it feels that since I want to withdraw from society, I'm like a leper. I feel that way. I'm all alone. I'm isolated. Hashem is telling us, no, wherever you are, you have within your four walls a tremendous treasure. But you have to be able to mine that treasure. And you won't know it. If you weren't ill and thinking bad about yourself, you would never know to turn around and think good of yourself. You just wouldn't think of it. Rabbi Nachman told a story, a parable, of a man in Eastern Europe, and he had a dream one night that there was a treasure under a bridge in Vienna. And the dream seemed so real to him, he took whatever little bit he had, gathered it together, and he traveled to Vienna, and he found that bridge. And he was going to go under the bridge to start digging for the treasure, but he saw there was a policeman standing on the bridge, and he was looking at him. What's this person doing going under the bridge with a shovel? So the cop went down and he said to him, "What are you doing here?" Figured he had nothing to lose because he's got to dig for the treasure. So he said, "Well, I had a dream that if I dig under this bridge, I'm going to find the treasure." The policeman looked at him and says, "You silly Jew. On such and such a night," and he mentioned the same night that this Jew had a dream, "on such and such a night, I dreamt that if I go to a certain city in Eastern Europe and I dig in the house, I dig up the floor of a certain person named Moshe, this was this person, I'll find the treasure there in my house." The man heard this. He's talking, describes his house, his address, his home. So he figures that that's probably what the dream meant. I come here and I'll find out where the treasure is. He went home, he dug up his house, and he found the treasure on the floor. He was ecstatic. Rabbi Nachman concluded the story with the following understanding. The treasure was always by that person in his house. It was always there. But he had to travel to Vienna to find out about it. He had to travel to the tzaddik. He had to travel to find out what the tzaddik's teachings are all about in order to learn how to mine the treasures that lie within the person himself. All of us, each and every one of us, has a tremendous power, has a tremendous treasure. And we could accomplish phenomenal things. We really could. But really what we have to do is travel to the tzaddik, the Metzora. We have to find out the Metzora, the Medrash says, is from the word Motzi Shem Ra, somebody who slanders somebody else. You have to go to the Kohen and he has to perform the purification process and whatnot. And with that, the person becomes pure. So too, we have tremendous powers in us. Each one. We're all different. Some have tendencies towards immorality, some have tendencies toward gluttony, whatever. Some are arrogant. All right, we're all different. We all have to take ourselves and work on purifying ourselves. To do it, we have to come to the tzaddik, to study the tzaddik, the bylaws and the tri-laws of everything that's involved. And with that, Be'ezah Hashem, God willing, we'll be able to purify ourselves and to become a good person that I really am. Amen.